Welcome back to the channel, guys. In today's video, we're going to be installing this solid vinyl soffit as a porch ceiling in this ceiling you see here above me. And I'm also going to explain to you how to install the lighting, and if you're going to install a ceiling fan, how to do that before you install this solid vinyl soffit. And if you're new to this channel, my name's Josh. This channel is all about building your own house, saving a ton of money. So be sure to subscribe, ring that bell so you get a notification every time I release a new video, and smash that like button. And if you need to, go ahead and smash it twice because it's that important to promote this video. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. So before we install the soffit ceiling, what you need to do is run wood strips every 12 inches apart, no more than that, because if it's any more than that, the vinyl soffit has a tendency to sag because structurally it's not very sound going across that way. So 1 foot apart, and then on the edges you need to install what's called F-channel. And how F-channel works, I got a scrap piece here. If that's against the wall like that, the soffit edges are going to slide into it like so and give you a nice finished edge. And if you've been following my channel for a while, you've seen me install plenty of soffit. So it's the same idea, other than it's a bigger span. So that's just a rundown on how it's going to be done. But before we get started actually running the vinyl soffit, what I'm going to do is show you how to get the lighting installed and the ceiling fan bracket if you are going to be doing that. What I have installed here is recessed lighting, and this is a 6-inch recessed light, and these are just daisy chained to each other, and I got 3 of them spaced evenly across the porch. And you want to make sure you have a nailer around the edges so that way the soffit has support. And this is a Halo brand by Lowe's, and as you can see, it's just dropped down a little bit to allow for the soffit. So after the soffit's installed, this is going to be flush with the soffit, and that's what you want. And then it has trim that goes around after the soffit's installed, and I'll show you what that's going to look like. To install your ceiling fan, I'd recommend getting one of these. It's called a saddle box, and that's what you see here. And what it does, it is like a saddle. Saddles over your rafter, and you just secure it in place with a little screw. And then when you mount your ceiling fan, it has these longer lag bolts to hold it into place securely to the rafter. And when you install this, make sure, just like the lighting, it's sitting down flush with your strips of wood. So that way, whenever you put your soffit in, it's flush by the time it's said and done. So again, I'm not going to show you how to wire it and all that. That's for another video, but that's just a rough explanation. Now let's go ahead and cut that soffit and get to installing it. The first thing we got to do is measure the width of the soffit we need. And right here we got 66. So what we're going to do, take off a 1/2 inch because that gives a 1/4 inch for expansion on each side. You definitely got to allow for expansion. So let's go ahead and get that cut. All right, so in order to cut this stuff, go ahead and get your measurement, make a mark, and then use a speed square or a framing square. Just line it up with that mark, make a straight line, then come to the other side if you're using a speed square because it isn't long enough to go across the whole thing at once. And now we got a straight line to go off of, and just use a pair of these 10 snips and go ahead and cut straight down that line. And you'll notice the warmer it is, the easier this stuff cuts because it's just simply vinyl, so it's going to be more flexible when it's hot out. All right, so now that we're cut the length, let's go ahead and get this installed. And just since the camera's pointing down, it's easy to see, I'm using these aluminum roofing nails to secure the soffit to the furring strips. All right, to install this stuff, all you gotta do is slide it into one side of the F channel, and then you'll have to flex it into the other side because since it's cut to fit inside of it, you're going to have to bend it a little bit to get it in. All right, and once you're in, you slide it back into the other F channel against the wall, and that's all there is to it. And you wanna make sure you're not really tight into this F channel because you need to allow some expansion room there too. So there we go, that looks pretty good. So try to get that center, and now all you gotta do is drive your aluminum roofing nail into the nailing flange. Just like you would installing regular soffit. And you wanna nail this stuff a little bit on the snug side compared to vinyl siding, because this is actually going to be needed to be held tight against these wood strips. And you'll notice when you nail these wooden strips, they're more bouncy than it is nailing into a wall stud. So Takes a little more hitting to get it in. All right, now we need to cut another piece to fit in here, and then we're gonna lock it in and keep it going. All right, I'm gonna show you guys how this stuff interlocks. What you gotta do is just get it in the channel, but slide the end overlapped on the interlocking channel before you put it in the F channel. Makes it a little easier. And then after you do that, that's the hardest part, honestly, is getting it in the channel. And now just hold your hand, put it up tight against the existing piece of soffit, and pull towards yourself here so it locks into place. And go across the whole thing to make sure we're in really well. And there you can hear it kind of lock into place. Give it a nice little pull, make sure we're in good, and visually look to make sure you're locked in, because that's always something you want to make sure you're all the way in before you start nailing it off. All right, that looks pretty good. And now we just go ahead and put nails in the nailing flange just like we did on the other piece. Very nice. I got the soffit far enough to where I'm running into a recessed light, and I got to cut around it before I install this piece of soffit. So there's two ways to get your measurement. You can either measure to the center and then get your radius that way, or you can measure from the edge to the edge of the recessed light from the edge of the interlocking channel of the soffit. So I like to do the edge-to-edge method. It seems to be a little more accurate. So it looks like we got 1 3/8 and 8 inches. So I'm measuring to this side of the circle and this side of the circle. And we already know that the light's going to be in the center, so all we got to do is put those marks in the center of the soffit and then make the radius. And I'll show you the easiest way to get the correct circle radius. Let's go ahead and get this cut. All right, so the first thing we need to do is find the center of the piece of soffit. So it's about 32.5 to the center of it. And we know we said 1 3/8 from this edge to the first edge, and then 1 3/8, or I'm sorry, 8 inches this way from the edge. So right here should be where the center of the circle is. So what I like to do is just get the baffle out of the recessed light I'm using, and I'll put it down as my template. So that looks about right there. And now just trace around the edge, and this baffle is going to be smaller than the actual recessed light, so be sure just to allow about 1/4 inch around the edge. Depends on the size of your baffle, but this one, that's the case. And this is going to get trim around it, so your cut doesn't have to be really pretty, but you want to get as good as possible. So something like that. So that gives you a rough idea of where you need to be cutting. And then the next thing I do is I use my utility knife to get started, and I'll go ahead and puncture through the soffit with it. Okay, and you can either just take your utility knife to cut around it, or you can use your tin snips. So I like to get started with the utility knife and then finish cutting with the tin snips. Just because you got a little more control with your tin snips than you do the actual knife, because the knife can grab a channel inside the soffit and kind of pull to where it wants to go, more or less. And again, don't worry about making this cut look really pretty, because it doesn't have to be. Just as long as you can get that recessed light in there within reason. All right, so there we got it roughly cut out, so we'll go ahead and put it up there and see what it looks like. All right, as you can see, that turned out really nice. So cut out is about 1/8 inch around the edge of that, so that's what you want. So now we're going to finish installing the soffit, then I'll put the trims around the recessed light so you can see what that looks like. After the trim is installed around the lights, that's what it's going to look like. Just looks like a regular recessed light, but as you can see, the cut is not exposed. When you get to the last piece that bumps into the wall, you'll notice you'll have to rip it down, and see those little trim nails up into that groove? You'll have to use fascia nails, pre-drill with an 1/8 inch bit first so it has room for expansion, and you're going to have to secure it that way. And that's how you end your soffit run. All right guys, that is the final product using solid vinyl soffit for a porch ceiling. It turned out really nice. I hope your project does too. Looks like we got a rainstorm coming. Look at that, folks. Nice sheet of white. It's just sprinkling here, but I can tell it's going to be a downpour here any second. There, it's picking up now. Look at the view from up here. Is this nice or what? This is the reason why I picked this lot. It's so pretty. If you have any questions about this project, be sure to ask them in the comments below, and I will get to them as soon as possible. And again, I want to say thanks a lot for watching. Be sure to subscribe, ring that bell so you get a notification every time I release a new video, and smash that like button for me. I appreciate it. Okay, I got the back porch I got to do yet, and it's starting to rain, and it's blowing in on the back deck, so let me get started on that. All right, catch you in the next video.